Good afternoon. My group mates Arato Kaelo, Kaone Baredi, Natefo Chepete, and Katlolisi Gilisile will be presenting about research writing. We are in year one and in hospitality management and tourism management. Under this research project, we'll be talking about we'll be covering topic introduction, research problems, objectives, hypothesis, literature review, research design, discussion, conclusion, and recommendations. So I will be taking you through topic and introduction. Topic refers to the specific subject that a researcher chooses to study in depth. An example could be tourism and hospitality management. That is what we as a group chose to be our topic. So the research project will be centered and revolve around this topic. This basically means that every piece of information that you will be getting from the entire research project will all be linked back to the topic. All questions that shall arise from the entire research will be linked back. As I said, every piece of information that will arise from the research project will all come back to the topic. Moving on to introduction. An introduction provides context on the upcoming research. It provides basically information, a bit more information than topic of what you're going to be covering in the research project. It also gives you a clear understanding of the focus point. This basically means that it gives you an idea of what that topic is going to be about, what exactly you are going to be covering. An example of an introduction is tourism and hospitality is a global business industry. It feeds on the desire for humans to travel and enjoy new experiences. Tourism focuses on visiting the desired places, and hospitality accommodates that by providing essential comfort in the form of housing. In that introduction, we basically see it basically explains what the tourism and hospitality industry have to offer to the world as a whole. It offers both accommodation and traveling experiences. While tourism focuses on the visiting of those places, hospitality focuses on accommodating those people. So it is an industry that works hand in hand. Both tourism and hospitality go hand in hand. Moving on to research writing.
Good afternoon. Moving on, I'll be taking you through the research problem and objectives. A research problem is a specific issue or problem that your study wants to investigate on. It's supposed to be significant, specific, and researchable. Specific meaning that it should be clearly defined and focused. Significant meaning that it should be relevant to your study or your investigation. And then researchable meaning that it could be researched through various data collection methods and good analysis. This information was sourced from Kumar 2019. An example of research problem could be how service quality influences customer satisfaction in the hotel industry. And then moving on to objectives, we have objectives are the specific goals or outcomes that you want to achieve during your investigation or your study. They should also be specific, achievable, and relevant. Specific meaning they should be clearly stated and measurable. They should be achievable too, meaning they should be realistic and they should be attainable. And then they should also be relevant. They should be focused on your study and investigation. And then we have examples linking to our research problem of objectives would be identifying service quality gaps that are affecting customer satisfaction. And then assess hotel service quality levels. That would be another objective. And then our last objective could be examine the impact of service quality on customers. That is our objectives for our research problem. And we'll be moving on to hypothesis.
Afternoon, guys. You're talking to Kaone Sharon Baraidi. I'll be talking to you and taking you through the hypothesis. Hypothesis is an assumption that is made based on evidence. We have the function of hypothesis. It helps verify the objective. It helps directing the inquiries in the right direction. It becomes the start of point for the investigation. We have characteristics of having a good hypothesis. The way of explaining your hypothesis should be very simple and understandable. It should be clear and precise to consider it reliable. It should include components like variables and the relation between the variables. Yes, we are moving on to the literature review. Literature review is a recap a critical recap of what has already been researched on a topic. Importance of literature is to find what's already known about the topic at hand and is to give the reader a critical overview of your findings, is to find out what's the missing information from the current knowledge so you can add to your knowledge easily. How to write a good literature review? You search for relevant literature, you evaluate and select sources, you identify themes, debates, and gaps. You outline the literature review, and you get into the writing, which is the introduction, conclusion, description, and then conclusion. Yes. We are moving on to the research writing under design.
Now, moving on to the research design. Research design, it is a strategy for answering your research questions using an empirical data. Steps on making a design research. Step 1 is the research objectives. This is a clear statement for the aims and the problems of the study. Point 2 is data collection methods. They are the techniques used to accumulate data. For example, survey, observation, and experiments, etc. The third point it is data analysis. This is how the data will be processed and converted to answer the questions to the research. The last point is his data presentation methods. This is a way of displaying the data that has been collected. For example, bar chart, pie chart, scatter chart, and table, etc. Now I'll be moving on to the discussion. Discussion, according to SJSU Edu, it is the discussion section the discuss section is one of the final parts of a research paper in which an author describes, analyzes, and interprets their findings. Now the structure of the research discussion. Explaining findings, whereby the research questions are well answered and interpreted. For example, digital nomadism has increased their demands such as food, accommodation, and leisure when it comes to tourism economics. The context. This is the steps where the researcher compares the literature to other related existing researchers. Now I'll be handing over to my colleague, Kato.
Moving on to the conclusion. What is a conclusion? A conclusion in research writing is basically the summary of the main points and findings explaining what the research has accomplished. It should contain reinstate the main research problem or question and the purpose of the study in a fresh way, summarize the main findings and results, synthesizing them without including new data, then explaining the significance of the findings and how the answer to the research question. Then discussing the implications of the work, connecting the findings back to the border of the field of the study. Then acknowledge the limitations of the study. For example, we have sample size, and methodology. And lastly but not least, essentially the conclusion just basically tells the reader what was found and what it means and why it matters. Then moving on to the recommendations of research writing. So research writing basically are the specific suggestions for action or future research that logically follow the conclusion and study findings. They should be practical, feasible, and directly related to the research problem. Types of recommendation. We have policy for action. This suggests specific steps for practitioners, policymakers, organizations, or the public to take based on the research result. For example, good quality customer service influences the loyalty of customers. Henceforth, hotels should adopt the best quality service. Recommendation number 2 we have for future research. This addresses unanswered questions or limitations identified in the current study. For example, if study was conducted on good customer service on a 5-star hotel, the recommendation is the same must be done or repeated in a guest house. Then moving on to the key characteristics for a good recommendation when writing research writing. They should be clarity, they should be clear, concise, and state what should be done by whom and why. Then we have justification. It should be justified with the data, and conclusions must be presented in paper. They should not introduce entirely new ideas. Then prioritization. In extensive research, recommendation can be listed in order of importance. That was all from my group. Thank you. We are done, ma'am.
References.
References. Oh, moving on to research writing references. We have links as references and websites that we took our information from. We have the first one as HTTPA. I guess that's it, ma'am.